get your seats, and we got a last presentation. And again, you got the optional things you got to do, and you got the mandatory things you got to do. And we all know we got to get attention when somebody's talking about mandatory. So Phil Lawler is going to be talking about the Vet Feed Directives, and we know that's coming, and we hope we can make that as painless and productive as possible. So thanks for joining us, Bill.
Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate getting a chance to address you guys. We'll talk about just VFDs, Veterinary Feed Directives, and really how it impacts you guys as a producer. And my role with GlobalVetLink is I'm actually a consultant with them I'm part of what they call their experts council. My background is about 30 years now in animal health, both with biopharma products, distribution, and in the last 15 years on the data and technology side. And grew up working in Pitchfork, so I know what you guys are facing today. In fact, the FDA, when they're talking about the Veterinary Feed Directive, they said that it's a fairly straightforward process in practice. So it's catching a pig, right? And you just walk over and pick it up. It stands still, right? I'll never forget one of my roommates freshman year in college, I went to Iowa State. No booze from Iowa or my roommate was from Chicago. And he went home with me one weekend, and we walked in, and we were walking into the barn where the open sows were. He went, "Oh my God, you're huge!" And I said, "Oh, that's nothing. Come over here." And then I pointed out, the ones that were walking through the door at that moment were the boars. He was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then they turned around, "Oh my gosh!" So he thought they were all little and pink and pale. Not so much. I saw this picture, and when I was looking for some pictures, and I thought, my mom and dad didn't love me very much. They didn't give us helmets when we were But, like anything, the VFD situation is it's about the right location, it's the right equipment, and it's the right support team. And you wouldn't want to catch pigs in a barbed wire arena, right? GVL is that right location. It's cloud-based software. We provide all the support, tech support, and the client support, and obviously the associated equipment. There's no software to download to maintain anything like that. But let's talk about kind of the VFD in general. So what's a VFD, Veterinary Feed Directive? What are the requirements? It's intended to be that VFD. You'll hear VFD thrown around a lot. There's the VFD process. There's the VFD form. And then there's the VFD feeds, or the VFD article that we're talking about a type A feed or a type A medicated feed product. So that VFD form is intended to really involve three parties: the veterinarian that authorized it, the feed distributor that is fulfilling the feed order, and if any of you mix your own feed on the farm, you're the distributor. You're mixing the feed. So, but you're also the producers, and then there's that producer. It's intended to be that one-to-one relationship. There are other people that get involved. If you have a consulting nutritionist and they'd like to get copies of the VFDs, the reality of it is, for a lot of veterinarians, they don't know a lot about how these products are actually mixed into the feed. So the nutritionist is oftentimes a key component of that relationship. They did expand it beyond that last one or multiple locations, especially for the swine industry, the poultry industry, where the swine industry, where the pigs are going from a farrowing unit out to multiple nursery sites. If one set of pigs gets sick, the others are probably going to get sick at some point too. So a veterinarian can write a VFD for all of the associated sites down through the production process. So it does include multiple locations. A couple of key changes that have happened if any of you have been keeping up with the VFD, the FDA really did think that they put out the initial final rules and man, it was nailed down, everything was addressed and taken care of. And they spent the last, final rule came out in June of last year. They spent the last 13 months now, 14 months now, addressing, well, what about this, what about this, what about this, what if this happens, what if that happens? And so some of the things that they've relaxed a few of the requirements. The electronic transfer of these records is encouraged by the FDA but not required. You may, the FDA, they say that, but then they've required the drug sponsors to have, here's my pad of VFD forms for this product, and here's my pad of VFD forms for this product, this product, this product. The veterinarian has to keep the original, the way they signed it. You know, any veterinary practices, any of the big veterinary practices, they don't have paper files anymore. It's all electronic. So veterinarians are really going to want to try to do this electronically, even if they do it by paper. Key differentiation between you and the veterinarian is you just have to keep a copy. That has to keep the original. You can keep a copy, and you can keep that copy however you want to keep it. You can keep it all as paper. You can keep it all digitally. If your vet only writes out paper VFDs, photocopy it, scan it up into FeedLink or up into your records and keep it digitally. You can do that. You've got the flexibility of keeping copies however you want. Also, the original VFD regulations said that the veterinarian had to estimate the tonnage of feed. That obviously wasn't realistic because the veterinarian doesn't have a lot of experience usually doing those calculations, and the amount of feed required changes. So how long do the animals stay sick? You know, what are the weather conditions? Morbidity rate, mortality rate. A lot of things happen to change the total tonnage of what's going to be required. So now they just have to put the estimated number of animals and then the duration of use. Veterinarians got a lot of responsibilities in this process. You think you're not happy about having to start monitoring the medically important antibiotics. That's the term that the FDA now uses. Simply means antibiotics that are used in both human and animal medicine. So your ionophores and beta agonists and stuff, they're not part of this VFD process yet. Doesn't mean that they won't be down the road. The naive consumer, unfortunately, gets riled up by the activist groups who have create a lot of fear on the bill, so to speak. So hopefully they'll just stick with the medically important antibiotics, and I'll show a list of those later. But the key things dealing with that veterinarian are they've got to keep the original, but they're supposed to have a veterinary client-patient relationship with anybody that they write a VFD for. FDA will probably enforce this a little bit more with the VFDs than with the occasional script for some injectable antibiotics or something like that. So, you know, the key thing that I tell both feed distributors and producers is start, kind of strengthening those relationships now. If you come January 1, Oriamycin, oxytetracycline, any of the drugs, Tylenol, things changing over to VFD, you're going to have a veterinarian authorize that. We won't bother reading through all of the rest of those. Distributors, what defines a distributor? Distributor is anybody that sells a VFD product to another distributor. Not a producer, but a distributor who's going to redistribute it. And that can be a farm mixing operation. Particularly if someone is selling you type A, the pure undiluted drug, and you're mixing it from a type A into a type C complete feed, you are the distributor. And incidentally, you can still inventory type A as long as it's category 1. If it's category 2, you got to have a medicated feed mill license. There's only about 900 locations in the U.S. that go through that process. It's bigger than just saying I intend to carry to distribute and carry VFD feeds. So talk to whoever consults you on your milling operation. If you've got your milling operation, talk to them about what's the paperwork that you got to have in place to be a quote distributor in this VFD process. But that distributor, it could be a feed company It could be somebody that bought a type A and they make a premix. It could be somebody that carries bag, a retailer that doesn't manufacture anything themselves. They just carry premixes and bag feeds and crumbles. They're a distributor too. So the distributor's responsibility is they've got to notify the FDA, I plan to distribute VFD drugs. If they're selling to a producer, they have to have a VFD on hand. If they're selling that product to another distributor, they have to have what's called an acknowledgement of distribution letter, or letter of acknowledgement to distribute. So those two types of paperwork are intended to accompany any movement of product from one party to the other. And so distributor to distributor, it's the letter of acknowledgement. Distributor to client or producer, it's the Veterinary Feed Directive. What are your responsibilities in this process as a producer? First of all, let's define producer. Doesn't matter who owns the animals. It's who is the caretaker. Who is the person, so a contract grower? That's the producer, because the requirements here are all around feeding the animals or not feeding the animals. So if the birds or the pigs or the cattle are owned by somebody 2 counties away, 2 states away, they're not there monitoring what's going on with those VFD products, those VFD feeds. So in the words of the FDA, it's the caretaker, the one that's right there providing facilities, providing the employees, providing the day-to-day care. So it's pretty simple. You're only going to feed the VFD feed to the animals that are represented by that VFD, animals that are at the locations that are listed on that VFD. You won't feed it to other animals. Not so much with this crowd. Tomorrow I'm headed down to Missouri. I'm going to be down in cow country down there. And the scenario everybody's worried about there is they get something for anaplasm. Look at that. Got a break out a pink eye over there. No. The producer gets caught doing that. I don't know. The FDA has not been real definitive about what the penalties are here yet, but let's face it, this is a political issue. It's not going to be a light slap on the hands. Everybody's more scared of people that want, their food. I just got a big kick out of Panera's promise of clean food. Well, you've been serving dirty food? Well, it's seafood. What's
that interesting?
Yeah. So, you provide a copy. If the veterinarian gives you a paper copy, you got to make sure that your feed distributor gets a copy of that VFD. Those 3 parties, that the distributor and the producer, need to have copies. Vet can send it digitally, or they can send an eVFD through a system like ours. They can send it by fax. They can send it by email directly to the distributor. They're supposed to, unless they hand you paper, then they can require or ask you to get that paper copy to the distributor too. They're supposed to hand you 2 paper copies, by the way. And then maintain your records for 2 years. So, and that is 2 years from the point that it was issued. FDA already started a inspection program, and it's more to monitor whether or not if there's problems in the process. It's for learning and education purposes. Always be concerned when the government tells you we're just trying to learn. Yeah. But they have said first stop is going to be the distributor. They're going to look at the distributor's records. If they see something that looks out of whack, then they'll go, one direction or the other, or both, to the veterinarian to look into their records, or to the producer to look into their records. I jumped over it. I shouldn't have. One of the requirements on the producer side is that you'll feed the VFD feeds only to the animals that are represented by that VFD, and you'll only feed it during the period of time that VFD is valid. So, extreme scenario, if your VFD is about to expire in 2 days, you can order more feed. The feed distributor can deliver that feed because you still have a valid VFD, but you can't feed it beyond the expiration date on that VFD. So, if you got sick animals, and the VFD, how it hand is about to expire, get hold of your vet, get another VFD issued starting the next day. They don't have to. It's veterinarian's discretion as to what substantiate. There's some loose requirements about what constitutes a valid veterinary client-patient relationship, but in most states, they don't have to go see those animals, every time that they cough. They don't necessarily need to see the animals on. If you get 5 nurseries, and the vet writes it for all 5 nurseries, they don't have to see all 5 nurseries. They know there's a relationship with you, the producer. They know the production process that the animals are moving through, and it's their professional opinion to be able to go ahead and write that AFP for all sites.
We should necessarily consider this all negative. Doesn't this give us cover? In a sense, if we follow these rules, then Walmart just don't say we got to do that because the customers do.
Yeah.
We can say we're following the rules.
Well, it's again, goes back to it used to be that when you talk to somebody even in Chicago or Kansas City, they knew somebody that farmed. It might have been an uncle, it might have been a grandparent, so usually knew somebody. But the consumer's getting further and further away from the farm. So if I don't know, I'm going to be paranoid. I'm going to believe in yard somebody throws it. I saw a killer whale jump out of the bay out in San Francisco because it was on the internet. And so, in fact, I think Okabochi has it. It's on the internet. So you're right. It is the intent is to instill confidence in the food supply chain again. The one that will get the big stick out of it is antibiotic and hormone-free poultry. There are no hormones approved for use in poultry in the United States. So where are you getting your chicken from? So yeah, hopefully this does create more confidence. People don't understand how tightly the use of hormones was already being regulated and controlled. They didn't understand that producers gets in a lot of trouble if they ship animals off the slaughter plant that they know have an antibiotic residue, or milk off to the creamery that had an unapproved drug in it, and shows up in the milk. Pretty big financial penalty. So when they inspect, they're looking for 15 things specifically on that VFD. We won't go through them because you don't have to write them. So there's no simple scenario here. I tried to, and the colors don't show up as best as I should have picked historically different colors on the right-hand side. You got type A VFD particle dry items. That's just the raw drug uncut. So usually that's coming from the biopharma manufacturer. There's only 6 of them. I think there's 6. So Edison, Lanco, Ruby Pharma, Fibro, Merck, and if I missed somebody, I apologize. But they may be selling that directly to a large operation. That's usually more common in feedlots where there's 40,000 head around the female, and that female is mixing. We got their hands full of beef for 40,000 head. So usually that hay is going to go to a feed manufacturer or a premix manufacturer. They're going to make type B or type C that's being sold to the producer. So really, most of the time as a producer, the only paperwork that you're going to be required to deal with here is getting those veterinary feed directives in place. Getting a copy to the vet will have a copy, they issued it, and then making sure that she or he sent a copy to the feed distributor, or you take that copy to them. On rare occasion, if you have an on-farm mill yourself and you're buying type A product, FDA says that's not a VFD feed, that's a VFD article, so that you can inventory that. Now you have to have the VFDs in place before you feed it, but just to make sure you don't get some rogue inspector or uninformed inspector that expects to see some documentation accompanying that transfer of goods. I would recommend that you give the distributor buying type A from AOD or acknowledgement of distribution. It simply says, I know you're selling this and this distributor is my responsibility add VFD before I feed it to animals or something's going to feed it. Duration, let's talk about the key differentiation here between duration of use and VFD expiration. Duration of use is pretty simple. It's on the label, how long is that drug approved to be used on those animals for that particular indication. Palmitil is actually a good example where the duration of use is different for cattle than it is for hogs. So our software, and I'm glad to anybody that wants to see it in action, I'll show you a demo of it. I don't want to bore you though. It's an electronic form where our smart engine technology, the veterinary business says, all right, this is for swine. It automatically limits them from that point on to only select drugs that are approved for swine. When they select a drug, they can only put on that VFD, the class of production, that drug is approved for on its label. So it takes all that information on the label, puts it in a database, and then helps them fill out the smart engine technology, help drive the choices as they're filling out that VFD. So VFDs are the biggest margin barrier is going to be with the paper VFD that somebody is filling in by hand, or they don't even have to necessarily use a form from the manufacturer. They could write it on a piece of notebook paper, but they better know that label and have it right in front of them and be able to transfer the right information on there. VFD expiration date. So there's a duration of use. For example, I'm going to use Palmitil for cattle because those numbers are right on the top of my head. Palmitil in cattle, the duration of use is 14 days. You can write a VFD for 21 days. That's obviously a pretty high-powered drug that they don't want to make it too easy for you to. Let's just say it's not being used. There's no pulse dosing being used with Palmitil in cattle. It's too expensive. Not that it's that much cheaper for hogs, but when you got a drug like CTC that's being used for some pulse dosing, and so I'm going to put them on it for 7 days and off for 14 days, on for 7 days. The drug, on a drug-by-drug basis, when the new labels come out that are the VFD labels on those products, some of them will have a defined VFD expiration period. Our FeedLink solution only allows the VFD to be written out to that expiration date. If they try to go beyond it, we just won't let them do it. If the drug does not have a defined VFD expiration period on it, the maximum the veterinarian can write it for is 6 months. So I tell you that just so that if you see VFDs on 2 different drugs, well, this one's good for 6 months, but this one is good for less than a month. What the heck's up with that? It's because of the restrictions on some drugs. These are the current drugs that require VFD. Some of you may have already been dealing with VFDs. The Tomicin is probably the one that is most likely with this crowd. The Cavalt, the Adamycin, more recently got approved. These are drugs that were approved after the initial VFD regulations were written up, and so they had to become VFD immediately. The FDA would not approve Palmitil until the Blanco helped them figure out how to monitor this as a VFD drug. So then all the others that were already on the market, they become VFD drugs on January 1st, 2017. The Apelsin, another swine drug that was recently approved. That just shows you the differences in the varying ranges between what's the duration of use versus the expiration. So, excuse me. So the Apelsin, for example, it's a 14-day duration of use, but it's a 6-month VFD expiration period. So that's kind of the other end of the scale from Tomicin product. And these are the other drugs that are going to be VFD drugs as of January 1st. The bigger ones on there, the CTC, the OTC, Lincomycin to some extent, certainly Tylosin, penicillin. By all accounts, that's probably going to. There's only a few people that only one person is still making a feed grade penicillin, they're probably going to discontinue it. Somebody told me, and I don't know if I should. Don't quote me on that, but there's some of those drugs that are just not widely used. These are obviously approved in specific combinations. If there's a VFD feed additive in feed, it's a VFD feed. So if it's mixed in with some sort of a insecticide product, if it's mixed in with an ion 4, even though those are not VFD products, that finished product, that feed is a VFD feed. It has a VFD drug in it. That makes sense. I would really encourage you, there's two things that you want to coach talk to your veterinarian about. They have the ability on that VFD to allow generic substitution or not. Have them allow generic substitution. It makes it more flexible for you, it makes it more flexible for their feed distributor. Not every feed distributor carries every brand and every formulation of drug out there. The inventory, getting crazy. Also, there's three options with combinations. They can either say, no, don't want to allow it in combination, or they can allow it in use with any approved combination. That's the blanket statement. That's the one you want. Now you got the flexibility. If something happens 2 days after that VFD was issued and you got to get something else in the feed, you can get something else in the feed. There's the option for them to allow it in combination with specific approved drugs. Not flexible. So encourage them to allow generic substitution and check the box that to use in any approved combination without specifying what they are. Those are the three different combination intent statements. So, just give you a little bit of background on GVL as a company. That's kind of some basic VFD information. Our software can be used by veterinarians to create an archive and manage the VFDs. It can be used by feed distributors to receive VFDs and to upload paper VFDs, any VFDs that come through the door in some other format, and archive and manage it. It can be used by producers as a VFD management tool. We're going to be integrating with FBS systems, and so there'll be more information coming out on that. And on the flip side of that, we're with some distributors. Sometimes the distributors will say, "Well, before a feed order goes out, we want to make sure that there's a VFD, in place. We're integrating with feed distributors' ERP systems and feed logistics software platforms and such. Lots of integration going on right now. But GlobalVetLink is not new to livestock business. They have been managing animal solutions for 15 years. Ironically, the first one was not a food animal in the U.S., it's for horses. Any of you that have horses, you got your Hagen's test done, and your paperwork before you take it across state lines, they've got a Hagen's certificate process. The LabLink HIMS is it's a coordination between a bunch of diagnostic labs to have disease prevalence information in a single database. Veterinarians will use it to see what's going on around their area. Drug sponsors are using it to monitor what's going on nationally on a state basis, so they know what kind of outbreaks are occurring, so that they can ramp up drug volumes and things like that. The HealthLink, veterinarians can use the HealthLink product to put all of the health certificate information together, and animals are being transported intrastate or interstate. You're going across, animals are going across the cattle, you're going across 3 or 4 state lines. When your calves in Kentucky are going out to Oklahoma to be kicked out and stopped. And so it takes into account all the different regulations that each state has and puts the appropriate paperwork together. ScriptLink is, those that you probably know, if not, you need to know, water-soluble antibiotics are becoming prescriptions January 1. The reality of that is your typical feed distributor probably going to stop carrying it because they now have to be subject to inspection by the State Board of Pharmacy. So imagine a person goes into CVS Walgreens. He inspects the pharmacy going out to a hog farm going, all right, show me your prescription records. I don't know what's going on. It's just, walking into a feed distributor. And first of all, I'm afraid to dust on the pretty cheap. So the feed distributors aren't going to put themselves in that situation because they'll probably have to hire a veterinarian or a pharmacist on staff. That's usually one of the requirements. They have to have that pharmacist or veterinarian has to be licensed in any state that they're shipping into. It just gets a lot harder to carry this product. So your water solubles will probably go more to the veterinarian's office. They'll use it as short-term therapeutic while they work with you to get something in feed, or traditional animal health distributors that carry the injectables and all the other prescription products will obviously they're set up and handle scripts will keep handling. But ScriptLink for you as producers and for veterinarians, ScriptLink is going to be a big solution for the feed distributor, but you guys can use it to manage your scripts across the board, not just water solubles. In fact, we've got another product that we're rolling out. It's similar to a VFD, but we're calling it a VFR, Veterinary Feed Record, and that's for OTC products, not oxytetracycline, but over-the-counter products that don't require a script and don't require a VFD. But if you want to have similar record keeping for all of the drugs that you go in your animals, that Veterinary Feed Record applies there. And then that's facilitated through the same feed like the same tool as the VFD. So I guess in kind of summary, this has been a ramp-up period for GlobalVetLink. They've been working on getting ready for January 1 for 10 or 11 years. From the first time they launched FeedLink for Palmitil. And like Occasion said, we need an electronic veterinary feed record solution. Don't know what it is, but we built it for us. And it's been a great relationship, and now they've got that relationship with all the other drug sponsors too. And then they brought me and some other people on board to then round that tool out for what does it need to do for producers, what does it need to do for feed distributors. FeedLink has already generated over 30,000 VFDs to date. So ramping up to a couple of 100,000 a year is not going to be a big deal. Plenty of personnel and infrastructure in place. The other VFD solutions that we've seen out in the marketplace, and there's only a couple more that we've seen, both of them have less than 5 employees. GVL has, by the end of the year, they'll be up to 40 plus. Being in Ames, a lot of them already have ag experience or animal experience. Even some of the programs, it was interesting talking to some of the programmers. A lot of them have already worked for another company that had something to do with animal production or crop production, and so it's a nice level of experience to have kind of across the board. So FeedLink, we're trying to make it that one solution for the Veterinary Feed Directive for all parties involved, whether it means simply using our cloud-based system or integrating with software that you're already using, like FBS systems software. So, questions?
So, who pays or how is this service and how do
The way the service is paid for is the veterinarian, kind of everybody pays a little. The veterinarian, everybody wanted the drug sponsors to fund it all, but they weren't thrilled about that idea. So they are funding it heavily up front, but then starting in 2017, it'll start to be user-based. So the way that the fee structures are going to work, the veterinarian pays a monthly subscription fee. Their practice pays a monthly subscription fee. There's a slightly bigger fee for a multi-person practice versus 1 or 2 veterinarians. There's a per VFD fee. That in all likelihood will be passed on to producers. It's $5 per VFD, so it's nothing too outrageous. And then the feed distributor, if they can receive VFDs and be in our distributor database at no cost. I would encourage any of you with your feed distributors, encourage you to get a hold of us and get in that database. That allows the veterinarian to generate it electronically, send it to them, send it to you without paper floating around. If they want to use our system and to manage all their VFDs, then they pay a monthly subscription per location fee as well. It's operational software for them.
What are the alternatives to GlobalVetLink? Is there be more than one system, or is it you guys?
You know, there's. I said there's two other systems, but from our market research, they're not doing anything at the producer level. One of them, man, more power to her. She's a recent Texas A&M grad, and I think her master's thesis was on this because she's got a little solution that helps. It's kind of geared for helping top half people keep their VFD records. There's another one called RX Express, but it's really, so far they're kind of more geared toward helping the veterinarian generate the VFD and helping the feed distributor receive it. I'm not directly involved with the, we're working directly with producers from a contract grower right on up to, a poultry integrator that's covering, it's got 300 locations across 7 states out in the Delmarva area. From a producer perspective, I would encourage you to give me a follow-up call, put you in touch with the right person, or shoot me an email. I've got my cards here. And I'll put you in touch with the people that are working directly with producers on this, and just talk about your specific situation. What do you want to accomplish? Where do you think you need help with this? As we work out the integration with FBS systems, we can obviously get that information out to you.
You probably said this on this one. What's the implementation?
The timeline is, it really varies. For a veterinarian, they can learn how to write a VFD in this thing no matter a couple of hours on a webinar. It kind of depends on what you need to do, how many people are involved, but it's a fairly short time period because it's all cloud-based software.
I mean, but when if your feed goes, you've got to treat it, so you have to have this in place.
Oh yeah, if you starting January, well, I tell you what, starting January 1, the time period, the implementation period is immediate. Theoretically, if you have VFD feed in the bin in your month on January 1st, what would be right with the VFD?
Right?
Yeah, I would. That's why I would start right now, making sure that if you've got a good, solid relationship with your veterinarian, that's good. The ones that are going to go more than anybody else are going to be the cat guys. And in my neck of the woods, in Kentucky, the project is allowed that not probably a year and a half. Well, he's going to come out. What do you mean you're no longer practicing in your sentence? There will be veterinarians who choose not to do it. I mean, I don't have any livestock horses, and some of my vet comes out twice a year for little tea, and he pops the dogs, the cats, and bringing shots and stuff. And I asked him if he's got any guidelines. He said a few, and I asked him what the veterinary feed directive was. I probably won't do it. He said, I won't risk my license. I'll just refer to somebody that does cat. So, whoever you get feed from, talk to them about it, how they plan on managing the VFDs, what's their preference and how they get a copy of the VFDs for your locations. If you're growing animals, if you're raising animals for somebody else as a contract grower, talk to the people you got contracts with, find out, say, I'm getting a copy of the VFD, this is my understanding that I'm the caretaker, I need to have it. Do you want a copy too for the animals that you own? They may or may not want it, probably want it. If you're working with a nutritionist or a consultant outside of the relationship with your feed distributor, talk with them. Now's the time to get this all figured out. Like the veterinarians will likely start getting their paperwork in order, starting October or November. Starting in October, we plan, right now, I couldn't create a VFD for Thailand if I wanted to, because it's not a VFD drug yet. The FDA doesn't want any VFD floating around until the drug is VFD drug. However, we are going to turn that information on in the database and allow veterinarians to start creating VFDs for these drugs that are going to become VFDs January 1, starting about October. They just won't be able to put an effective date in there earlier than January 1st. So then copies distributed to people that they need to get copies distributed to the feed that's already in place on January 1. I think an FDA inspector is going to come run out to your place January 2nd. No. But, better safe than sorry. Feed distributor, I'll tell you, because the FDA said the feed distributors are where they start. Feed distributors are going to want to come starting probably no later than December 1st in the feed they're delivering. And that's the FDA drug in it. They're going to try to work with the veterinarian to make sure that the veterinarian to make sure that there's VFD effective in case that stuff is still sitting around.
Doesn't all the packaging change October 1st? There's a date out there they've got to change.
Theoretically, yeah. They've all submitted, my understanding is they've all submitted their new labels. They take the drug promotion claims off. FDA, unrealistic as it is, they don't have to give them a final answer on whether or not those labels are accepted until, say, it's like December 8th. It's the end of November, the first part of December. And the type B and C manufacturers are going, we can't change our labels in 3 weeks. So you already start to see some transition labels on the type A products, and you'll start to see some transition labels on the type B and C products. It'll say something to the effect of January. If that product has the drug promotion label claim still on it, then there will be a sticker or part of the label that says beginning January 1st, the drug efficiency claims are no longer approved on this product or something like that. So they had to submit those labels 30 days ago or 60 days ago, and the FDA wanted 6 months to review them.
You know what they're going to do, like with medicated creep foods coming in the bag? How's that doing?
Anything that has the drug in it, even if it's milk replacement, it's VFD.
And then VFD.
Yeah. The medicated liquid feeds folks who love that you consider water soluble. But, it's not water, that's feed. So, anything. Liquid feed, premix, Virginia blocks that have certainly drugs, complete feed, any beer seeds that have those drugs in it. And every level, it's VFD feed.
Your show pig guy that buys the bag feed with the medication and that VFD.
That's created the most angst in anything.
I bet, because he's never seen that.
Yeah. They feed half the bag, then what do they do? FDA would tell them, you got to throw the rest of the bag. So,
Yeah.
we'll see. I sat in the Feathers meeting out in Ocean City, Maryland, where one of the lead vets from a big poultry farm out there said, what happens if I decide to send the chickens off the market 7 days earlier because of price or weight or whatever? I'm not throwing away the feed that's in the bin. We'll get figured out. So there's nothing to say that feed can't be moved and fed to other group of animals that has to be in place. But the bags for the show animals, that's where everybody's like, oh, I'm not busting up bags. You're not show pig folks who see why we need to be in the music program.
Maybe there's animal bags. He's going to go down one medication. He's going to get like that.
Well, and really what will happen in those cases is if they were feeding that just to get better pigs faster, the probably is not feeding the VFD drug in there. There's lots of people positioning themselves as an alternative to the VFD drug. drugs for efficiency purposes. If it's a sick animal, then they'll call that out and they'll pop them in the needle or something. There's rarely many of those vets that isn't asked about the club cat situation. That one's about show folks. Anybody in aquaculture?
They have to be a
Yeah, oh, they do. Yeah, they do.
that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we just had
Horses and pets are.
well, there's no number of proof sources. So you cannot use feed additives off limit. That's a big differentiation between the injectables and the feed grade drugs. No extra limits. So, right. So if it's not on the label, you can't use it. And so that's that even trying to treat pink eye with CTC, that's off label, can't be done. And so there are actually the minor species that people, where they've been using some of these, they're going to have to figure out an alternative. Yeah, there's the FDA is trying, they've got their minor, what's called, it's like the minor species, something or other act, makes exceptions for minor species, particularly with the prescription drugs. They're trying to figure out how to put VFD drugs in there too, without allowing extra label use in mass species and primary species that are already on the list. But do we have any possibility of big? Right, it's still a big one. But any of the weird protein sources. There's dog food companies are really interested in weird protein sources now, so you might want to start raising elk and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I was laughing. My dog's very dead animals. I think they go corn. Other questions? Did everybody get my card? Even if you just get some VFD related questions, feel free to use this as a resource. Lots of good resources on the GlobalVetLink website as well. You can get what we call a VFD survival kit, and it has the list of the drugs, it has the responsibilities of the veterinarian versus the producer versus the feed distributor. But there's no stupid question related to this. If you want a general question or a very specific question, feel free to get a hold of me, and if I can't answer it, somebody with GBL will. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil, for a uplifting presentation on a downer subject. So that's it. Well, this pretty well wraps up our meeting. It's very appreciative you staying around, John.
What's the FBS connection?
You have an API going into their website, so you get API connection. So it'll be connected to the group. Open groups and be a link going back.
So you can substantiate that you have a director?
That's, they're
And information for somebody that match those directives up there.